Coming out of St. John Bosco, DJ Uiagalelei was supposed to be the next great Clemson quarterback in a long line of great Clemson quarterbacks, but that didn't end up happening. He was kind of cast out, or in some regards kind of left behind as they moved into the Cade Klubnik era out in South Carolina. Now he's at a program at Oregon State that was essentially left behind by its own conference. I mean, Pac-12, all the restructuring and all that stuff is leaving Oregon State and Washington State left behind. And that conference, the Pac-12, is actually so far the best conference in college football. There's 7 quarterbacks. Add in Shedeur transferring into Colorado, and you got 8 quarterbacks where you could point to in that conference alone and say those guys are playing big-time elite level college football. On top of that, 7 of those 12 teams are actually currently ranked in the top 25. And today we're going to talk about the quarterback who's not getting as much shine as several of the other quarterbacks in the Pac-12, and I'm going to show you why I think he should. All right, first off, there's a couple of things you got to do if you're going to come in and play at a high level in college football, or if you're transferring from another school, going into a new opportunity, something you got to show that you've developed. And this is the first thing that comes to mind, him going through progressions. So take a peek at this, okay? This is a full field read. We're going to bring this guy across in motion. Now we're in a 2x2, and down here to the boundary, he's got some version of a choice route by number 2 and a must outside release fade. So that's really technically number 1 in the progression, 1A, 1B, however you want to read that. We're going to start there. He's not starting here versus middle field open or middle field close, cover 2 or cover 3. The read starts there. This is what I would call a pure progression, okay? Now, the second element of this concept is he's going to have number 2 up top run an over route. Okay? Now, you love it versus certain coverage. You love this versus man and all that. But the reality is with this choice and this fade, he's breaking out, you're going to read this concept over here to take a peek at this over route. Now, if you get cover 1, you're going to give that an extra hitch. You're going to give that some extra time to stair step, get vertical. Here's what I mean by stair step. This guy's going to, if this is cover 1, press man, he's going to step him upfield and then snap across. We want to give him plenty of time to win. And if not, I got to get all the way to number essentially 4 and throw this dig up top. And as you watch right here, DJU starts very quickly at the boundary, says no. He's got a quick out versus an outside leverage defender. I'm saying no to that. Okay. This is more of zone coverage here underneath. We got guys floating, reading eyes. So he says no to this over route immediately and doesn't need an extra hitch. This ball's out on time, hitting this dig right in the face. Look at it from this angle. Okay, so as we peek at DJ here, getting everything set up, brings him in motion. He's starting to the right. Again, based off leverage number 20, outside, sitting on here on my quick out, my choice route. I don't like that. He's peeking early, saying no. Coming back, trying to find his over route. That's just muddy to me. I got a guy getting jammed up 8 yards down the field, kind of riding his high shoulder. That doesn't feel like a winner right away. And if you're going to hit the dig, we cannot let this extra defender float underneath my dig. So if I'm going to throw it, it's either got to be first window, which he does, or later in the progression, second window. Much tougher throw. And DJ right here starts to the right. This kind of drive-by footwork, it's like one shuffle, like 1.5 of a hitch, okay? So right foot hits the ground, no. Brings his eyes to the over out, no. Now you see that little flick of his eyes right here, out to the dig. No extra hitch, no extra bounce, no wind-up, no pat. This ball is coming out and hits this dude on the 2. So right off the bat, from a progression standpoint, I'm seeing him make decisive decisions, and they're happening very, very quickly. The part I left out, by the way, this is versus Utah. This is one of the best defenses in the country. Okay. How about this one? Dropping back. You go, well, this is just a fade. All right, well, let's take a peek at this. The coverage here, it's quarter, half. So this safety's working this half field, this guy's running quarters, and this guy's running quarters. Well, when you run quarters and have a fade on this side of the field, this ends up being man-to-man coverage, okay? That corner's job in quarters, anything beyond 10 yards is essentially man-to-man coverage. DJ knows the route's going beyond 10 yards, so he's going to go 1, 2, 3, hitch, ball's out. Now, if you look at this ball's leaving his hand right now, as you look down here, this is pretty even. So if the DB was further down the field than them, you want to maybe rip a back shoulder, and DJ's got a big arm. If it's even, you can give him that running jump ball, potentially still back shoulder him, or hit him in stride and trust that he's going to get to the landmark where you're throwing it. When more often you do that, lower chance it is of being complete. And if you do it, it better be a dime. And how about the ball placement right here? Just watch this receiver running and literally not adjust. Now he jumps, doesn't need to. This thing lands right in front of him. So I'll just let this thing play here. This ball is out on time, 50-something yards in the air, big time throw from DJU. The other thing you don't have to have, but it's nice to have, is if you are an attacking runner. So I've been talking about this in the media. I talked about this on the Herd and Rosillo show recently, that I think there's two types of runners. I'll say college and pro, mainly in pro, but there's two types of runners. There is a replacement runner or an attacking runner. Okay. Now, speed is helpful if you're super fast. If you're not that fast, that does change things. But a replacement runner is somebody where, let's say it's zone coverage, this guy drops out and there's not a receiver running right there. Well, I can move in the pocket and go run and pick up 8, pick up 12. If it's man coverage and everybody's going this way, I can take off and run, and maybe you rip off a 40-yarder, but you are really running to replace where the defense is going. And I don't mean that as a negative term, that you're only a replacement runner. Some of the best players in the NFL, I think, in my opinion, are replacement runners. They're going to effectively replace where the defense is and get yardage. It's effective. There's only a couple in the NFL, and there's a handful more in college, of attacking runners. And what I see on this play is, DJ, this is a called run, but he's an attacking runner. So we're going to get an empty right here. It's a designed run. He's going to take off, but he makes the first guy miss, second guy miss, gets vertical, and then gets down the field. This is early in a game versus, again, a really good defense. But you can see him right here. Defense is getting set, moves over here to the left, sees 20 out of the corner of his eye, puts his foot in the ground, gets vertical, comes over here, puts his right foot in the ground, gets vertical, makes 15, essentially just slip and fall. Okay? Gets vertical again, and is smart enough to get forward and dip at the last second, just avoiding that helmet-to-helmet contact and taking a shot off of himself. So I would say that he's a cerebral runner. He sees the field. He's not just running if it's wide open, and he's not just running to get contact and get hit by 3 dudes, which over time ends up adding up on you from an injury perspective. But I've seen him multiple times this year be more of an attacking runner and actually sticking his nose in there and getting extra yards, but also cutting back and making DBs miss. Now, this last piece, you don't have to have this. This just shows kind of the wow plays, or what the ceiling is, right? What the ceiling is for DJ is what types of plays can he make that maybe other guys can't make. Okay, so this concept right here is in some version of this is in every playbook. Okay, this guy's going to run out here into the flat. He's number 1. We're going to have a high angle corner out. That's going to be number 2. We're going to have an over route coming backside. That's going to be number 3. And then we're going to have a guy kind of slam flat. And what that guy is, and let's just highlight him for a second, this last guy, this slam flat, he's number 4 in the progression, but also what he is if you run a naked, okay, and that's what we're doing here. We're faking to the running back and rolling to our right. If you run a naked right here and you get somebody in your face, that's the guy that you kind of like delay, leap, dump it over to him. That's your outlet, okay? That's not what DJ does right here, okay? So here's a naked, we're faking. He turns around, and what does he see immediately in his face? A free running who's unblocked. So this isn't bad protection. We leave that guy unblocked. The fake is essentially blocking him. So if the fake doesn't block him, then we got to manipulate and throw around him. But that's not what DJ does. He decelerates with this left foot right here, puts his right foot in the ground, and he lobs this thing about 25, 30 yards in the air. He doesn't dump it to this guy right here in the flat. He lets this thing go about 25, 30 yards in the air and throws an absolute seed off of his back foot. Look at this thing from behind. Absolute seed with a dude in his face. There's no time to make this decision. He whips his head around and he goes 1, 2, puts this right foot in the ground. And when I call this like a fadeaway jumper, I mean, let me hit pause right here. That looks like a fadeaway jumper. That looks like Steph Curry in the corner right there with a dude closing out in his face. And again, he's not dumping it to the easy outlet. He's throwing this thing 25 yards out of the screen and hitting a guy in stride for a monster first down. So when I think about DJU, whatever happened at Clemson is irrelevant. I'm not worried about what happened. I'm worried about what's happening right now. And what Jonathan Smith is doing, the way that the amount of offense they have in, the shifts, the motions, the responsibilities they're putting on DJ pre-snap, what they're asking him to do once he does have the ball in his hands, what we're seeing is when you go to a school and you start and it doesn't work out and you transfer, this is the goal. To go somewhere, show things you've never shown before, highlight the best parts of your game, and play winning football, because this great defense I talked about in Utah, this is a game that Oregon State won, and it was great quarterback play by DJU.